Now, while Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when the disciples saw it, they were angry and said, "Why this waste? For this ointment could have been sold for a large sum and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? She has performed a good service for me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. By pouring this ointment on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her." Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I betray him to you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment, he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." Peter said to him, "Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And so said all the disciples.
Jesus had some beautiful experiences during Holy Week. He went back to the temple and saw a widow who gave so generously to the offering that it moved him. And a woman on Tuesday night came to where he was having supper and poured a whole jar of beautiful nard or perfume on him. But sad things were happening behind his back. Judas, one of his disciples, went to the religious and civil authorities and said he would sell Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. Thursday night was Passover. Jesus and his disciples borrowed a friend's upper room and prepared the food, but they sent the servants home. Now they had walked on dusty roads that day, and their feet were dirty. But no one wanted to volunteer to wash everyone's feet with water. Jesus tied a towel around his waist and got a bowl of water and began to wash their feet. He told them this was a model of how they should always treat one another. And they said, "We'll remember." It was a great supper. It was a Passover supper with lamb and bread and herbs and 4 cups of wine. Partway through the supper, Judas sneaked out. Jesus also warned Peter that he would deny Jesus later on. 3 times before the rooster crowed twice. Peter thought that was foolish, but he also didn't really understand about washing feet. Jesus decided to change the meaning of the Passover supper. He took bread and broke it and gave it to them. He said, "This bread is my body, broken for you. Every time you eat this bread, remember me." He took the cup and poured over it and gave them each a drink, saying, "This cup is a sign of my promise that your sins will be forgiven. Whenever you drink of it, remember me."
Our third story is from Matthew 26, verses 36 through 46. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So, could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray so that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass, unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for the third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you are talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." And he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
After the Passover meal, they walked back to where they were staying, stopping by a favorite evening place of Jesus called the Garden of Gethsemane, which was found on Mount of Olives. Most of the disciples sat around talking, but Jesus took Peter, John, and James with him farther up the hill. He asked them to stay a while he prayed. He went a little farther and prayed to God that, if it was possible, he did not want to die. The eyes of those 3 disciples were heavy and they fell asleep. Jesus came back and said, "Couldn't you stay awake with me a little while?" He prayed, and they tried. Really, they did. But they were so tired, they fell asleep. Disappointed, he woke them up again, and this time they promised. He prayed a third time that God would spare him, but those disciples just kept snoring. "Get up," he said, "they're coming." Judas came through the garden with a company of soldiers. He prearranged a clue to identify Jesus. He gave his friend a kiss. The disciples scattered, frightened by the weapons, and the soldiers dragged Jesus away to the high priest Caiaphas' house for a trial. Peter trailed behind to see what would happen. At the trial, people came up with all sorts of contradictory testimony against Jesus. Outside, one of the servants came up to Peter and asked, "Weren't you with him?" Right then they heard cock-a-doodle-doo. There was a commotion around the door. "He's coming out," a sentry said, and then he turned around and saw Peter. "Hey, you look familiar. Weren't you with him?" Just then, two things happened. The cock crowed a second time, and Jesus was shoved through the door by the guards and looked right at Peter.
Our last story for the morning comes from Matthew 27, 11 through 14, and 21 through verses 32. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." Then the people as a whole answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came on a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they compelled this man to carry his cross. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs were also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered into the holy city and appeared to many. Now, when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly, this man was God's Son." Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee.
It took 2 trials to convict Jesus, and the governor Pilate was so unhappy with the death sentence that he brought out a bowl of water and symbolically washed his hands. There was a Jerusalem tradition that one prisoner was released for the Passover holiday, but the crowd demanded Barabbas, a well-known terrorist, rather than Jesus. The soldiers beat Jesus and made fun of him because people said that he was the Messiah or King of the Jews. They put a fancy red robe on him and took heavy thorns and braided them into a crown and pressed it on his head. They even made him carry the heavy cross himself, but it was too much for him. And so a man named Simon was pulled out of the crowd to do it. All of the disciples ran away except John, Jesus' mother Mary, and the woman who had followed him. In those days, women were much less likely to be arrested. Jesus asked John to take care of his mother after he died. While he was hanging on the cross and dying on a Friday that we call Good Friday, because his death and resurrection we look forward to on Easter morning, saves us from death and our own sinfulness, he said several things. He cried out in his pain to God, and those around him, he said, "I'm thirsty." The soldiers put some vinegar on a stick and thrust it into his mouth. Then he looked around at the soldiers who crucified him, at the religious authorities who planned it, and at the disciples who ran away, at the crowd who were cheering, and way across the centuries, even at us, and said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Finally, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he thought of all he had done and all that his death would do, and he said, "It is finished." The soldiers had been playing dice and gambling for the prisoners' clothes. The sky became dark when Jesus died, and the centurion who was in charge of the soldiers looked up and said, "This is truly the Son of God."
Our dedication hymn for today.
Would you like to read When It Was Evening?
No, that was
Did you do that?
Croc. That was, I wonder if that was Croc style.
No, just, can you read that one? Or I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Okay. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus, and Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. He then rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there sitting opposite the tomb. The next day, that is, the day after the preparation, the chief priests